I'd say if you're spending, you know, maybe more than 10 hours a week in the gym, 10 hours a week training, I think, and if you're anything like me, I think you might be inadvertently wasting time or subconsciously wasting time. I used to, not too long ago, I mean, maybe since 3 months ago or so, since the winter time, I used to spend like I probably averaged close to 2 hours in the gym per day if you added all the time up from the week and, divided it by 7. I used to spend so much time in there. I used to, depending on what muscle group day it was, I used to do every exercise known to man, rep it out. I wasn't training properly. I was definitely pretty ripped, looked pretty good by my standards, at least. Had, they scanned me. When I joined this new gym, when I finally moved out of the house, they did like a body scan the first day we went in. I was, to my surprise, even under 8% body fat. I'm not very strong, but I'm a pretty good endurance athlete, I would say. I recently ran a 10-mile race in under an hour and 10 minutes. I've done that twice. Same run in the past 2 years in Philly here. So that's averaging under 7 minutes a mile. I finished. That's a top 3% finisher. I mean, that's pretty damn good by most people's standards. I wouldn't call that elite by any means, but that's pretty damn impressive. And I'm going to be honest, I really don't even train for that much. I think I'm just, where I lack in natural strength. I'm definitely not very strong in the gym, especially my lower half. But I was certainly gifted with some endurance ability, some long distance ability, the ability to just maintain a pretty crazy pace for a long period of time by some people's means. And as I said, I actually kind of hate running. I barely even train for this thing. I don't think I ran more than 3 or 4 miles in preparation. I do like to, for cardio, what I'd like to do for cardio is implement short distance endurance training and sprints. So for example, today I actually ran 10 sets. I did 40 seconds on, 40 seconds off. Probably about 80 to 90% of my maximum effort, which was around a 4.5, just over a 4.5 minute pace, mile pace, that's pretty damn fast. 13 miles an hour. That's brutal. I highly recommend implementing a workout like that in your daily routine. Maybe you wouldn't call that a sprint, but it's damn near close. I mean, you're probably zone 3, zone 4 cardio for that time. Then you slow down, you take a little break, and you hop right back in, and you go for 10 rounds. I'd say the first 5 intervals, I felt okay. 6 through 10, it was pretty brutal. A lot of sweat. Felt great after. I love sprints. I woke up didn't get the best sleep, kind of had some self-doubt, to be honest with you. But there's nothing like some good sprints to get you going, wake you up, and kind of get your mind off things. Because when you're running at that pace, you're not really thinking about your problems. You're thinking about, like, shit, how do I not fall off this treadmill? How do I finish this thing out? So I implement that, and then I also implement usually one day that, and then a tempo run. So again, for example, last Friday I ran 2 miles at a pace under 6 minutes per mile. So again, pretty damn crazy compared to the average man. Nothing like incredible by any means, but I'd say probably 97 to 99% of the population is not running at that pace. And again, I think that compared to long distance training, at least for me, this is completely subjective on my end. I don't like distance running. I get pretty bored. But that short-term endurance really kind of gets the blood moving, and especially before a weekend or like a night of going out or something, I'd really like to get that out. But anyways, back to the premise of this go around here, driving into work. Once again, traffic, fucking brutal. I kind of want to talk about wasting time inadvertently, and I guess kind of whereas like, your normal looked down upon procrastination is sitting on your phone, or like, just doing some stupid shit, completely wasting time. Maybe not procrastination, maybe just wasting time. But wasting time, you usually think of, scrolling on your phone, just watching like a TV show, blah blah blah. I think, at least myself, and I know a lot of people out there probably have the same issue of wasting time looking like you're doing something productive, and that's really what I was doing for the longest time in the gym. And I think, anyone spending more than 10, even maybe like 7 hours a week in the gym, unless you have something serious, like you're an athlete or you're training for something serious, maybe like bodybuilding. But I think if you're spending that much time in the gym, you might have the same issue that I was having, of just kind of inadvertently wasting time. Maybe like being in the gym, you're subconsciously, you feel like you're being productive, but you're really just kind of putting off what you have to do, or what you can be doing. Because, like, let's be honest, being in the gym, for the most part, that's not really, you're not advancing yourself. You're getting a better physique, you're getting exercise, which is fantastic, but you're not strengthening any other area of life. Like, you could, that wasted time in the gym you could be putting into creating content, like working on your business, working on your relationships, like maybe reading, maybe gathering some more information that could help you progress in life. I'm just kind of, as I kind of just mature and continue to learn myself, I'm certainly getting to the point where I'm starting to realize that completely. So that's just the time wasting part of sitting in the gym for that long during the week. But another major issue that came across for me was, like, I would spend so much time in the gym. I would get so many steps in. I have such an addictive personality, which is, really why I fell in love with fitness, and why I'm a psycho about it. I'm a psycho about my diet. That's kind of just who I am, and it plays into my favor, but it also completely plays into my weaknesses as well. I have such an extreme personality where, and unfortunately it works both ways. And I think if you're anything like me, and there are definitely a ton of people out there like that, it's gonna hurt you, I think, more than it's gonna help you if you don't recognize it. For example, as I said, I would get 20,000-30,000 steps in, waste fucking 3 to 4 hours in the gym, and what it would do is it would subconsciously give me this idea that I could then, binge eat, that I could eat another meal. I'd be like, oh shit, I'm gonna get 10,000 more steps in, waste another 2 hours, so tonight I can, continue to put off the things that I need to be actually working on, and have a fucking peanut butter protein cookie dough, some 800 calorie snack, whereas I wasted 2 hours in the gym just walking and bullshitting, just with myself and my just kind of a total waste of time, and it sets you back. It sets you back. As I said, it would give me this idea that I was in the gym for 3 hours today. I got 20,000 steps in. I burned 1,000 calories. I can now binge eat. I can now eat whatever the hell I want. And I stayed lean, but I oftentimes woke up bloated, just kind of feeling not really great, kind of feeling like shit. Even stepped on the scale a few times. It was a little bigger. I think my metabolism is pretty crazy high, at least. But I wasn't being optimal at all. And looking back, the amount of time that was wasted, just bullshitting around in the gym, could have been put to this, to putting in work, putting in work into business, or just improving other areas of life. Again, I have such an extreme, polarizing mentality, I guess, or personality. I would put off events with family and friends. I was such a psycho with my training, with my diet, that I would put off life opportunities just so I could go to the gym and not even progress, just do the same shit I was doing, lift the same weights. Whatever. And I think really, when you have a personality like I described there, or super polarized, you're extreme about everything in both a good and bad way. I think I really suggest with the gym, even controlling yourself, setting a limit to yourself. Be no, I'm not gonna lift more than 4 times a week, 4 or 5 times a week. You're not allowed to tell yourself you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to go to the gym. You need to take a rest day. You need to take 2 rest days. You can't do cardio every day. And then that in turn, that eliminates, like I said, the binge eating. Giving yourself the idea that you have the excuse to binge eat because you train for hours. Fuck that. That's a trap. And I think, as I really said there, if you have a personality like that, what you really need to do with the gym is actually limit yourself. Tell yourself you're not going more than 4 or 5 times a week. Tell yourself you're taking 1 or 2 rest days. Tell yourself you're not allowed to do cardio each day. And that's worked in the past few months. That's really worked for me. That really has worked for me. The binge eating stopped. And I'd say another thing, like, in terms of, like, addictions, in terms of binging on certain things, and I know, there are many people out there who suggest the same thing, who kind of bring up the same idea, and it's like the idea that the best prevention is just, or I guess whatever that fucking Japanese saying is or whatever, but like the best prevention is just not having something around. And like for me, that has really worked with food and binge eating. Like if I had a jar of peanut butter lying around with, like a bag of shit, like just something like that, I'd be diving into it, no question. I'd be diving into it. I'd be into that all day. I'd be into that after dinner, adding maybe 500-600 calories to my diet. Not good. And for me, what's really worked is just not having that stuff around at all. Like when I go to the grocery store, I don't even buy it. And after a few months, so I moved out of my parents' house 6 months ago. Now that I'm shopping on my own, I don't buy that stuff, and now I don't even think about it. I used to have a problem with buying coffee as well. Like kind of addicted to buying coffee from like a certain coffee shop, and when you just kind of limit or take yourself out of there, like you don't even think about it eventually. And the same principles for me at least apply to other more serious, I guess, addictions like drinking, vaping. I used to be just a absolute fucking maniac when it came to drinking. High school, college, I was just a fucking mess. Even a couple years after college. Luckily for me, I realized how horrendous drinking was for your health. Like, I can't stand waking up, or I can't stand waking up or having to leave the house, and you just have that hungover. You just feel like shit, and you feel like you probably look like shit, but you certainly feel like you look like shit. And luckily for me, that is, something that I really am conscious of, at least in my day-to-day. So that has kind of allowed me to mitigate my drinking rather than completely cut it out. So, I used to have a major binge drinking issue, but it was more kind of just, I would still stick to a good routine during the week. Weekends, high school, college, I would be an absolute fucking mess. Sloppy drunk. Another issue with the drinking was it just made me fucking eat like I was fucking Joey Chestnut. But luckily for me, I was so conscious of my physique, my health, the way that I looked. That really stayed in me. I realized, even when I was still binge drinking, I realized like how I had mitigated it. I would tell myself when I was going to mitigate it. I would more often than not fail at doing that. But at least I knew. And now that I'd say once I turned like 24, 25, I've really become kind of the controlled drinking person. I have like one or two drinks. Thanks to a lot of the content creators online currently, like, the shit that I see, it's even, like, some of them even stress, like, even if you have one drink, that's gonna fuck up your entire physique, that's gonna fuck up your mind, your skin. And I mean, whether that's true or not, that has really sunk into me. And as I want to just continue to be locked in here and just continue to compound my growth to improve every day, you know, I don't want anything external coming in and wrecking that. So I even have contemplated just cutting out the drinking completely. I still do like to go out though, so it's, certainly kind of tough not to drink. Last weekend I went out on a Saturday night, I had one drink. So maybe I gotta cut off that as well. But yeah, I'd say for anyone out there with a drinking problem, or binge drinking problem, or doesn't think it's a problem, like, you just want to think of the way it's going to affect you and affect the next week or so, the next week, the week after, like how you're going to look, how you're going to feel and perform, the money you're going to spend, the mistakes you're going to make. I think the biggest thing, again, and I think with, the videos I've created so far, each of my videos I stress kind of just taking a 360 degree view, or like a higher up view of the whole picture. Just take a look at like your life, every time you've touched alcohol, every time you've gone out and drank, and just try to think of the things that the benefits that have come from that, the things that have gone well. I can tell you personally, I can't think of more than one or two or three. I really can't think of any. I mean, outside of maybe just some laughs and just dumb shit, dumb fun stuff with friends. I can't think of one fucking benefit, one thing that's benefited me from drinking. Not one. Literally not one. I mean, like, and like people, like, it's a social lubricant, blah blah blah, like that's just a fucking excuse. That's just an absolute excuse. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with drinking, but again, if you have a personality like me, it's very easy to fall into the trap of enough is never enough. Like, that's why I was the sloppy drunk. I was the fucking moron. And a lot of, like, significantly bad, nothing, I'm very fortunate that nothing significantly bad happened, but I mean, I got in some minor legal trouble multiple times, just underage bullshit, a couple injuries, lost my phone once. I mean, the list goes on and on of the bad, quote unquote bad things. Again, luckily nothing ever too bad. But the list of bad things outnumbers the good by a scary margin. And I would assume that for the majority of people out there, it's the exact same way. Also, with alcohol, like, dude, let's again take a step back and think of the people you know. Think of everyone you know. Think of especially the older people. Let's think of the older generation, like our parents' age, maybe a little younger. And you look at the motherfuckers who still drink all the time, who probably drank, maybe finally cut it out at like the ripe old age of 40 or 50, but maybe drank all the way through their 30s. Or the ones who are continuing to drink. I mean, they just look fucking horrible. They look horrendous. And you take a step back, you look at those people, and again, most of those people are probably great people. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with alcohol, but take a step back and look at that group of people and just ask yourself, and this is what I've been doing recently, like, do I want to fucking look like that? Do I want to look like that at 50, at 60? Because, like, those, if you, and like you would never say that to a person like that, obviously. But if you were to say something like that to a person, they'd just be like, "Oh, like this is how life goes, buddy. This is what you look like when you're 50, 60 years old." And like, just like, think about it that for a second and realize like that is not true at all. That's complete bullshit. You do not have to look like that. And alcohol is a major reason why people look like that. You know, the red fucking face, the inflammation, the baggy fucking eyes, just looking like absolute shit, the aging, the wrinkling. Like, holy shit. I mean, like, I think I've actually had some major physical side effects from my binge drinking horrible lifestyle. And I'm fucking 25 years old. Like, dude. No question. No question. Take a step back and look at that. Think about the good things compared to the bad things that have come from drinking. I guarantee you the bad things are going to outweigh the good. And if they don't, I mean, lucky you. And then look at the people, the older people you know who've been drinking for decades, and ask yourself, do I want to look like that? Do I want to feel like that? Do I want to, you know, maybe have the success that that person's had? I think, you know, and with all due respect to our elders and, you know, the people who support us, but a lot of those people, man, like, and you know, many are successful, fair enough. Many are very successful. But I think a lot of those people are just using, you know, alcohol as just a crutch. Because if they're anything like we were, they once upon a time had dreams and passions at the ripe old age of 20, you know, within their 20s. And at least the most of the older people that I know just ended up working, you know, a 9 to 5, grinding their ass off for someone else, sitting in traffic like I am right now every day. We didn't get that generation was a lot tougher than we were. They fucking worked 5 days a week in the office or on the fucking job site, whatever the hell they were doing. A lot tougher than we were with the remote work. A lot less complaining and feeling sorry for themselves. There's no question. But I think there's also no question that they use alcohol as a crutch. And they still do that. And they still do that because alcohol is fun. It's a good time. It makes you feel part of a social community. It helps you socialize and, you know, maybe helps you find a partner, like a fucking girl, whatever. Lets you, like, let loose. But I think that's all it is. It's just a crutch. It's like, shit, I have absolutely nothing else to look forward to other than, you know, the next weekend of drinking where I'm taking a day off from sitting in traffic, going into fucking work for 10 hours for some company I don't give a shit about with some, you know. I think it's just kind of a crutch, and it's just kind of an excuse to have fun. Because you're really just, you're not pursuing your dreams. You're not living your fucking dreams. So you're using that instead. And that's where I just suggest that if you're younger, if you're like my age, 25, if you're younger and you're already fucking thinking this way, like, props, that's just fantastic. But I think you got to take a step back and just look at it that way, man. Look at it that way. Like, in 25 years, do you want to look like that? Do you want to feel like that? Do you want to be drinking? Absolutely not, in my opinion. No way. No chance. And that is not, and you know what? The best thing is, it's all in your control, man. As long as you don't get sick, as long as you don't get fucking, you know, hit by a bus, it's all in your head. It's all controllable. You take the reins. You make the decisions. Nobody's forcing you to do that shit. There's a lot of social pressure, and that's, I get it, man. When you're 16 to 20, 21, 22 through college, like, it's hard, like it's impossible, near impossible, unless you're just a total beast, to not fold into the social pressures. But I think, like, as you even just creep in your mid-20s, you kind of just, you don't really give a shit anymore. So, I mean, I get it. Like, if you're high school, college, like, I completely get you shaking this off and not wanting to listen and have a good time. I was the same way. Same exact way. I completely get it, but I'll just let you know right now that if you have, like, ambitions and dreams, if you don't want to look like shit, feel like shit, if you don't want to be an alcoholic, like, you're going to find out real quick once you get into the real world that that shit won't fly. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. So yeah, that's what I got on the alcohol there, the addictions. And I think I mentioned vaping. Whereas alcohol, I can mitigate that. I think vaping, and again, unfortunately, when I lived at home after college, I'm about, as I said before, 3 years out of college. Lived at home for about a little over 2 years. But I moved out about 6 months ago, back into the city, Philly. And I'm not gonna lie, the first few months, I went back and forth with the vaping addiction a bit, especially when I would go out and have a few drinks. I've learned how to master and control my alcohol consumption, and luckily that's due to, just as I said, I want to keep a good physique. I have ambitions and goals that I know alcohol will destroy on a, maybe not a long-term basis, but at least a pretty significant short-term basis. But yeah, with the vape, I'd compare that to food, as I said, where it's just something that I need to not have around me. Like, if I don't have it around me, and I haven't had it around me for probably 2 months at this point, and I haven't even fucking thought about it. So, there's that. But I'll tell you right now, if that thing was lying on the couch, I'd struggle not to tap in. I would say that there was certainly one floating around me within the past few weeks, and I did say no. But I know it's just a matter of time. So again, I think the best, those are my overall thoughts on addiction and taming those. And you can sit there and call me like a pussy for not being able to say no, but I think that I've come to realize that I'm kind of just built a certain way. I'm structured. My brain operates a certain way. Like, and there's not a ton that I can do about it. I probably could improve and like learn to, maybe just have one little scoop of that peanut butter or whatever the fuck, or one little cookie, or one little rip of the vape. But I think that is so inefficient for a person like me. Like, for a person like me, the best way to eliminate something is to just not have it around. And when I've done that, I've absolutely excelled. Absolutely excelled, far superior to when I've just been like, oh, I'm just gonna limit this. I'm gonna limit this shit. I'm just gonna have one hit, 2 hits, 3. All right, I'll have 10. That's what fucking happens. I'll have 1 scoop of peanut butter. I'll have 1 scoop of peanut butter with 1 yogurt. That was good. Maybe I'll have 1 more. Fuck that. That shit does not work long term. It doesn't. Cut everything out. Just cut it out, man. Just give it a try.